Hydroelectric power generation is one of the oldest, largest, and most reliable sources of renewable energy, and is larger than all other renewables combined, including wind, solar, bioenergy, and geothermal, although it is losing market share as wind and solar generation grows rapidly. In fact, of the total global power generation mix, hydropower ranks third largest behind coal and natural gas, and accounts for about 15% of the total. In many developing countries, hydropower plays a critical role in meeting the majority of electricity demand. However, in advanced economies, the share of hydropower has been declining as existing plants age, with facilities in North America and Europe approaching 50 years old. Since hydropower plants can operate for up to 100 years, these aging plants are now due for expensive and time-consuming modernization and upgrades to ensure their continued contribution to electricity security for decades to come. It has been estimated that to modernize all aging plants on a global scale would require an investment of $300 billion US by 2030, more than double currently projected expenditures. Did you know that there are three types of hydropower? Number one, the most common, and the one most people associate with hydropower, is called impoundment. Basically, it is a facility that uses a dam to store river water. Number two is called diversion, or more commonly known as run-of-river. This type simply channels a portion of the river using the natural decline of the riverbed. And number three is called pumped storage hydropower, or PSH, which kind of acts like a battery. Essentially, water is pumped from a lower elevation and stored at a higher elevation, and then released during periods of high demand. Before addressing the hydropower capacity forecast, we'll take a quick look at some of the history. Global hydropower capacity has increased steadily each year since 2013, albeit at a relatively slow pace of just over 2% annually. Over the past 10 years, hydropower capacity has grown from just over 1,100 gigawatts to about 1,400 gigawatts, an increase over that time span of 22%. Impoundment and diversion hydro capacity accounts for about 90% of the total, with pump storage accounting for the remaining 10%. In 2022, China was the global leader in hydropower capacity, accounting for about 30% of the world's total capacity at over 400 gigawatts. Following a distant second and third are Brazil and the US, at 8%, about 110 gigawatts, and 7%, 105 gigawatts respectively. Canada actually ranks fourth largest, representing about 6% of the global total, at just over 80 gigawatts. Looking ahead, there is nearly 600 gigawatts of hydropower projects in various stages of development. That is an increase of over 40% compared to the 2022 installed capacity. Of the 600 gigawatts, about 130 is currently under construction. The majority of projects are concentrated in China and other countries where there is a high risk of electricity supply shortages. While this seems like a lot, the International Hydropower Association, or IHA, suggests this amount falls almost 300 gigawatts short of the necessary measures to limit global warming to 2 degrees Celsius. Further, they noted that annual increases over the past 5 years have only averaged about 22 gigawatts, half of the required growth of 45 gigawatts per year to achieve the goal of net zero by 2050. One of the main stumbling blocks impeding the expansion is the substantial capital and operational costs involved. The initial investment for a new hydropower plant is extremely high due to the construction of dams and other essential infrastructure. So, where does Inquiry see hydro capacity going over the next 7 years out to 2030? Well, we expect the annual growth rate of hydropower capacity to be rather moderate at about 2%, 30 to 40 gigawatts a year, kind of in line with the historical growth rates, and it will increase from the 1,400 gigawatts in 2022 to just over 1,600 gigawatts by 2030. Looking regionally, China is still expected to retain its position as a leading hydropower market through 2030, accounting for 40% of the global capacity expansion. This is down from their peak from 2001 to 2010, when they accounted for nearly 60% of all additions. This shift is attributed to mounting environmental concerns and the diminishing availability of economically viable locations for large-scale projects. Nonetheless, China is projected to increase its capacity by 95 gigawatts by 2030, representing a 40% share in the global hydro capacity. The Asian-Pacific region, excluding China, is also expected to have nearly 30% share, with an additional 65 gigawatts of new capacity added by 2030. The forecast also indicates that a substantial 75% of the growth in global hydropower capacity through 2030 will consist primarily of large-scale projects in Asia and Africa. It should be noted that over 50% of all hydropower projects in Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America actually have ties to Chinese firms, whether they are involved in construction, financing, partial financing, or ownership.